Hi, it's Kyle from Bitewing Games, and today we're going to learn how to play Bristol 1350. Bristol 1350, let's just call the game Bristol from here on out. Bristol is a game in the Dark Cities series from Facade Games. It is a game for 1 to 9 players that plays in about 20 to 40 minutes. In Bristol, your objective is to be in the first cart that leaves town without contracting the plague. However, if you're in a cart with another player that has the plague, you die and lose the game. If you catch the plague, your new objective is to try to make sure that no healthy cart leaves town. Each round, the dice will be rolled and the carts will move forward the number of spaces as shown on the dice. You will use your turn to manipulate the dice or manipulate your order in the carts. Let's take a look inside the box. The game consists of a rule book, 3 different types of cards, 9 character cards, remedy cards, and symptom cards, 9 pawns to match the 9 character cards, 3 apple carts, 6 dice, a pouch, and a map. To begin the game, set out the map and the 3 apple carts on their designated locations. Each player will select 1 character card, find the pawns that match that character card, place those in the pouch, and give it a little shake. Randomly pull out pawns and place them in the carts from front to back. For information on how many pawns to place in which carts, see the table in the rulebook. This table in the rulebook will also tell you how many remedy cards each player begins with. Shuffle and deal the remedy cards to each player and then place the remaining stack of cards next to the map. Next, look at the symptom deck and remove all cards that have a 4. Shuffle the remaining cards in the symptom deck and deal 2 to each player. If any player is dealt 2 symptom cards that each show a 3, they should be dealt 2 new cards. We don't want anyone to start off the game with their symptoms being 6 or more. Once all players have been dealt their symptoms, their remaining cards, including the 4s, are shuffled together and that stack is placed face down by the new symptoms section of the map. Let's do a quick overview of how the game works, then we'll jump to what you do on your turn. You'll begin the game by looking at your symptom cards. If your symptoms ever add up to 6 or more, you have the plague for the rest of the game. Even if later on your symptoms add up to less than 6, you still have the plague. To move forward and hopefully escape town, you will roll dice to move the carts. Roll all 6 dice to begin the round. Players will have a chance to manipulate them, but at the end of the round, each cart will move forward according to how many of their colored dice are showing. In this case, Birch moves forward 3, Cedar 2, and Oak 1. The dice will be either apples or rats. Apples and rats both move you forward. Rats, however, will cause players to share their symptoms, called Mingling. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but basically just know that apples are good, rats are potentially bad. So let's look at what you actually will do on your turn. The player whose pawn is furthest forward, in the front of the front cart, will begin the round. On their turn, they will take one of 3 actions. Number 1, they can re-roll 2 of the dice. Number 2, they can draw a remedy card. And number 3, they can move their pawn in some way. So let's look at each of those. Number 1, re-rolling. This can help you to move your cart forward faster, or potentially to make other players and other carts mingle, catch the plague, and not be able to win the game. Your second option on your turn is to take a remedy card, which are action cards. The remedy cards will do a handful of different things for you. We'll go into that in just a minute. But just know that the remedy cards are helpful and you can have a maximum of 3 in your hand at a time. The third option on your turn is to move. And there are 3 different ways that you can move in this game. First, you can elbow your way to the front of your current apple cart. Number 2, you can dash from the front of your current cart to the back of the next cart forward. If that cart is full, the player at the back moves to where you just came from. The third option is to push a pawn off the cart. You can only push yourself or a player that is further back than you on your cart. The pawn that is pushed off will move to the back seat of the cart that is furthest behind that has an open seat. So the red player could choose to push the blue or yellow pawn off the cart. In this case, the blue pawn would be pushed into the back seat of the 3rd place cart. In this case, they would be pushed to the back seat of the 2nd cart, since the 3rd cart is completely full. But what if someone is pushed off the very back cart, or there are no seats further back? That player is out of the game for good. But here's the caveat. The player that was pushed reveals whether or not they had the plague. If they did, they're just out of the game. If they didn't, the player that pushed them dies of shame, and they're also out of the game. To recap, on your turn, you have 3 options. You can re-roll 2 of the dice, you can draw a remedy card, or you can move your pawn by either elbowing, dashing, or pushing. After the active player has taken their turn, the player to their left now gets to take one of the 3 actions. Remember, you won't re-roll the 6 dice at this point. You only re-roll after all players have had a chance to take one of the 3 actions. So each player will have a chance to manipulate the dice. After all players have taken their action, before moving any of the carts, look to see if any color of cart has 2 or more rat symbols showing. Those carts now mingle. To mingle, each player in that cart will combine their symptom cards in the mingle area, along with 1 symptom card from the face-down deck. The cards are mixed together and each player is dealt 2 cards as their new symptoms. If your new symptoms add up to 6 or more, you have the plague. And remember, once you have the plague, you always have the plague, no matter what your current cards show. The remaining card from Mingling is placed face down next to the map in the discarded symptoms pile. After any mingling, the carts move forward according to how many dice show their color. If 2 carts end in the same space, the cart that started off further ahead is nudged slightly further forward to show that they are technically ahead. Reroll all 6 dice, and the player that is furthest ahead starts off the round by taking one of the 3 actions. Let's look at a few examples for clarification. All 6 dice were rolled. Red will be the first to go since they're at the front of the front cart. Red decides to reroll the dice, hoping to roll more tan dice. The blue player is to their left. Blue decides to elbow her way to the front of her cart, forcing the other player back 1 spot. Yellow chooses to draw a remedy card as her action. Let's stop and take a look at what the remedy cards actually do now. As a reminder, drawing a remedy card is one of your 3 available actions. However, you can play a remedy card at any point during your turn. It doesn't count as an action. You can even play multiple remedy cards or the remedy card that you just drew. There are 6 types of remedy cards. We'll go into each in brief detail. Each remedy card has 2 options. When playing the card, select one of the 2 available remedies. Arsenic, lock 2 dice this round. That means that no other player can reroll these dice this round. Chicken, if you choose to take the reroll dice action, the chicken will allow you to reroll those same dice up to 3 additional times. You can stop rolling 1 dice and keep rolling the other if you're satisfied with the results. Crushed emeralds allow you to take an extra pawn movement. You can play crushed emeralds no matter what action you took this turn, even if it wasn't a move a pawn action. Leeches. Draw 2 symptom cards and choose 1 to add to the mingle area of a cart. The next time the cart mingles, rather than adding 1 card from the top of the symptom deck, they will add one of the leech cards that was added. There's no limit to how many cards can be added from leeches. However, during a mingle, you will only add 1 card from that pile to the mingle. The rest of the cards will be discarded afterward. Pomander lets you draw 2 additional symptom cards. Choose 2 of the 4 to keep and discard the other 2. You will only ever add the value of 2 symptom cards, so while you temporarily have 4 symptoms in your hand, don't add up the value to determine whether or not you have the plague. The whip prevents other players from elbowing past you, dashing past you, or pushing you off the cart. If you use a whip, that player does not take another action, even though they didn't actually move. And a whip is only good to stop 1 movement. So if a player tried to elbow past you, and you used a whip, and then they used crush emeralds to move past you, you would have to lay a second whip to stop them. If a player is whipped, they don't move at all. So if yellow tries to elbow to the front and red whips them, they remain at the back of the cart. They do not move in front of blue. And those are all of the remedy cards. So now let's look at how the game ends. Once a cart has left town, all players on that cart will reveal whether or not they have the plague. If everyone on the cart is healthy, everyone on the cart wins, and the game is over. However, if anyone on the cart has the plague, everyone else on that cart dies and play continues. All players that died are out of the game. No more turns, no more cart movement, nothing. All other carts have 1 more turn to try to escape town, or they don't make it out in time. and they die. If no healthy carts escape in time, then any player who had the plague during the game wins. Yay for shared plague-filled victories. A few last things. Couldn't you try to catch the plague and then win that way? You actually can't. The rules state that players must avoid contracting the plague. Plus, it's much more satisfying and impressive to be a healthy plague-free winner. If you're playing with fewer than 4 players, you will add in ghost players. This video is already long enough, so I'm not going to go into detail, but it is outlined in the rulebook. There are a few other variants in this game. Can you say replay value? For example, if you flip the character cards, you will find special abilities for each character. You can also play the game with a more mild or a more violent strain of the plague. You are now ready to play Bristol 1350. Best of luck avoiding the plague. Until next time.